let me say, a word in defense of reason in dialogue with faith.
Because faith is that proof. Faith unites us to that substance.
But reason, in order to realize its full potential, needs the horizons revealed by and truths contained in the faith. And not just any faith, but the Catholic faith.
So we have to emphasize this last point here about how all these things fit together. The view of science, nature, and human reason are all essentially connected. I'm arguing against in a subtle McIntyrean way. I studied with Alistair McIntyre. Didn't do him any good, but that's right. No, it did me good, but it's a joke. Never mind. That you can't just talk about reason doing this or that, because you will have different formations of reason on radically different assumptions. And you have to unearth those things. So you're looking at what happens to a materialist view of reason. This is it. So science, the view of science, nature, and human reason are all essentially connected, so that the philosophical demonstration and scientific demonstration are mutually dependent. Hawking and Crick are not saying, as a matter of scientific method, we exclude all but material causes as we define them, and we set aside the consideration of other causes as beyond our method. They are saying, as a matter of fact, only material causes as we understand them exist. That is, they would not allow what Professor Carroll did. That would, metaphysics would say, booga booga. You know, there's just, it has no foundation. What you're saying makes no sense at all. In other words, my reason eats your reason in the same way my little Darwinian thing eats your, Jesus fish or something. This notion that you're not talking about anything, and so we don't have to listen to you, and so your demonstration has no effect. So we're not talking about the adequacy of Professor Carroll's argument. What you're talking about is the mode of understanding that within these people make that argument make no sense at all. It doesn't take any hold, so it's not effective. So there's a difference between the internal consistency and power of a demonstration and its ability to have an effect on this or that person, depending on what their beliefs are. So that means that Hawking and Crick are holding a very particular view of science, of nature, of human nature, and again, as it turns out, reason itself. To be reasonable means to be a reductionist materialist. So notice how, and this is, I didn't make this up, actually he didn't make it up either, but Pope Benedict XVI said this: one of the main problems in modernity is the constriction of reason. Most people say, oh, well, reason is attacking faith. He said, no, the problem is reason's too small. And Chesterton said the same thing. If Chesterton and your Pope say it, I know I'm redundant, but I might as well repeat it. Okay. Now, you obviously aren't going to be surprised to find out both Hawking and Crick are atheists, and that the reasons for their atheism are the same as for their denial of free will and personhood. So notice the demonstration of the existence of a person gets both them and God for the same reason. It's as if, the divine punishment is, okay, if you set up a system that you can't prove God's existence, then you'll disappear as well. Okay? I really actually mean that. Material reality is the only reality for them. Material reality is entirely self-contained and entirely determined. There can be no immaterial being. No such immaterial being is needed to explain nature at all. Any such explanations would be not only redundant, but annoying. And no alleged immaterial being could possibly interfere miraculously with entirely law-governed material nature. So those are the assumptions which define everything that they're using: reason, nature, science. So it turns out that if you accept your view of nature held by Hawking and Crick, then you cannot demonstrate the existence of free will, the existence of human beings understood as persons, or the existence of God. It's not just that the demonstration of the existence of God is impossible, the demonstration of the existence of anybody is impossible. And that's obviously got to be a fundamental we experience ourselves as human beings, and there's a whole bunch of you out there. If I come up with a view of science and reason in which you can't be demonstrated, and then I say it shows that God doesn't exist, something went wrong. Okay? If that weren't enough, as actually Hawking affirms in his Brief History of Time, I don't have the big quote with me, but in fact, the demonstration of demonstration itself becomes impossible on this view. If our mind's activity can be reduced to the neuronal activity on our brain, and this neuronal activity is entirely determined by physical causes, There's no reason to believe that in anyone's brain, whatever configurations might happen to exist at any one time would in some way conform to something outside the brain. There's no reason to assume that. Or to look at it another way, there's no reason to believe that a string of neuronal states or configurations or whatever it might happen to be in your brain is going to image by sheer luck a demonstration that held good independently. And even if it did in one person's brain, it would have no actual effect on changing anyone else's mind or any other person's brain state, so it couldn't be an effective demonstration. Because why? Well, as Crick says, what you are, the thing you call a brain or a mind that does a demonstration, is simply a vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules determined by subatomic laws, and atomic laws. Now, this all might be merely amusing. Okay, gosh, I'm doing a little shell game, I win, and we can all go home. Except that this view of nature, human nature, reason, and science is the dominant view at this time. That is, it still dominates. So we live in a particular time in which a particular view of reality, of nature, dominates, and that particular view of nature makes impossible the demonstration of the existence of God, and also free will, human personhood, and even demonstration itself. The materialist reductionist paradigm of nature and science has been very, very effective. So effective that few dare question it. Except as Ed Feser began to question it, so did Jay begin to question it. In other words, it wasn't, we'll leave you alone and we'll do our own reasoning out here. It was, no, I think there's something went wrong down here, guys. We need to look at it.